Good day to everybody. I hope you're all well. We're going to go back to talking about the Flavians today. I'm aware that I've done quite a lot of this mythicist theory, and remembering as well that the mythicism and this Flavian kind of conspiracy actually dovetail very nicely. They represent two broad waves, I think, of the eventual advent of Christianity from the Old Testament into the New. So we're just going to talk about some other, I don't think I've mentioned this before, but some other connections here to the Flavians that we see popping up in Paul's letters. And Paul is a very important, I think, transition point between whatever came before Christianity and all of these references to the Old Testament and Titus's Christian ways, and some of his family members, drifting into Judaism or Judaic ways, I think is the term that's used. And we're going to find, I think, a few speculative, and it's important to say that, but some speculative connections between members of the Paul's community and the Flavians now as well. And we must remember that some people have even posited that Josephus is a kind of composite character himself, that there were two production processes in Josephus's works, and some material was added later, again in the 2nd century. That's a theory that's out there, but that Paul and Josephus, and even Josephus and Jesus, have some interesting parallels, I think, cannot be overlooked. But let's get rocking and rolling. Okay, the Flavian court theory, Epaphroditus, Clement, and Paul's inner circle. Introduction here. A provocative theory in the New Testament studies posits that Epaphroditus and Clement mentioned in Paul's letters were no ordinary Christian companions, but high-ranking members of the Flavian court. If true, this would dramatically reframe early Christian history, suggesting the nascent faith had access to the very heart of Roman imperial power. While speculative, the theory is built on a foundation of verifiable facts, historical proximity, and suggestive overlaps in name and chronology. This essay will outline the theory, distinguish between what is historically proven and what is conjectural, and evaluate its reasonableness within a broader Flavian context. So we will be very careful here to state when we are talking about history and proven history, and when we are meandering into speculation. Just for anyone's edification here, I'm not trying to push a theory beyond its logical constraints. It's logical, fair, reasoned framework here as regards actual history. Epaphroditus in Paul's letters, so Philippians 2:25 and 4:18 mention a man named Epaphroditus. I have thought it necessary to send to you Epaphroditus, my brother and fellow worker and fellow soldier, and your messenger and minister to my need. Philippians 2:25. He is described as a co-worker of Paul, a messenger, apostolos, and someone who risked his life to help Paul. Okay, remember Paul talks from I think we've said this, maybe we haven't, and I'll go into that maybe later on, but the Flavian household and Paul's dealings with them in Acts. Clement in Paul's letters, Philippians 4:3 states, and now Clement, help these women who have labored side by side with me in the gospel, and Clement also, and the rest of my fellow workers whose names are in the book of life. Clement is listed as a trusted co-worker of Paul. Okay, known Flavian officials here with matching names. Tiberius Claudius Epaphroditus was a powerful freedman under Nero, secretary, and Libilius, secretary of petitions or secretary of letters. So someone who was doing what? Writing a lot, sending out letters. Just as Paul says, Tacitus, Annuals 1555, and Suetonius, Domitian 14, mentions his service and later execution under Domitian in around 95 CE. So when is Clement doing his? Oh no, this is Epaphroditus. But wait a moment. Titus Flavius Clemens was consul in 95 CE of nephew and Emperor Vespasian and cousin of Domitian. So this guy was actually a cousin of both of these elite Roman emperors. Cassius Dio, Roman History 6714, reports that he was executed for atheism, likely a euphemism for conversion to Christianity or Judaism, and obviously veering away from the pagan gods of Rome. Atheism didn't mean atheism as we know it today. It simply meant drifting off and quite likely worshipping other gods. Flavia Domitilla, wife of Clemens here, Titus Flavius Clemens, was exiled for similar charges and later revered as a Christian martyr. So we have these associations here with what might be nascent Christianity in the Flavian court. Alright, Epaphroditus, Clemens or Clement in the Flavian court. Early Christian claims and references. Eusebius, Ecclesiastical History 315, states that Clement was the third bishop of Rome after Peter and Linus. Okay, so he states that Clement here became, in Paul's letters, this Clement became the bishop of Rome. Origen identifies the Clement of Philippians 4:3 with Clement of Rome. Okay, using Christian sources here. The first epistle of Clement is usually dated to 90s CE, overlapping with the time of Titus Flavius Clemens, his execution as well. And we all know what happened to Clement, right? Speculative but reasonable interpretation. So this is a speculative portion. The name is uncommon, or common enough, but not entirely common. Epaphroditus is Nero's freedman here. The name is uncommon, and Paul's Epaphroditus was trusted, mobile, and possibly present in Rome. If Paul was imprisoned in Rome, it is not implausible that an imperial secretary might have assisted him, particularly in facilitating legal petitions now, or appeals to a Caesar. This would also make sense of Philippians 4:2. All the saints greet you, especially those of Caesar's household. Right, so we get a pro-Roman almost stance here with Paul talking here. Now, who knows who Paul is? He might be a construct, but it's interesting to see this patchwork of little signatures. Clement Titus Flavius Clemens here. The name match and chronology are strong. Clement of Rome is active around the same time that Flavius Clemens was executed for religious deviance. Later Christian tradition retroactively assigned sainthoods to Flavia Domitilla, his wife, reinforcing the plausibility of Christian identity within the Flavian circle. Some scholars, Robert Eisenman, Joseph Atwell, argue that Clement the Council and Clement of Rome are the same person, with the latter pseudonymously or cryptically leading the Christian movement in this elite circle. The Flavian editing and sponsorship of Christianity. Atwell again in Caesar's Messiah goes further, suggesting that Epaphroditus as Josephus's patron now. So Epaphroditus is Josephus's patron. Josephus makes this clear. And Clement were key figures in the Roman creation or manipulation of Christianity. And we have seen how many parallels there are in Josephus's works to Christianity. Even if you want to go there, we can say he mentions Christianity in the Testimonium. The theory suggests Paul and the Gospels were products of elite Roman psychological warfare to pacify Jewish rebellion, and we know how pro-Roman the Gospels actually appear to be. And Agrippa as well. Remember, Agrippa appears in a fairly positive context along with Berenice. Berenice is Titus's concubine. Okay, so we have these, again, more overlaps. Though largely rejected in mainstream scholarship, the circumstantial overlap between Flavian figures and early Christians continue to intrigue people. So we have this very quickly here, Epaphroditus in Philippians. This is proven, trusted Christian worker in Paul. Clement in Philippians, again a proven name, fellow worker of Paul, praised in letters. Titus Claudius Epaphroditus, freedman of Nero, and these times, I mean, he would have been, say, maybe 20 when Paul's talking about him. If this is the 60th, Paul's writing now in the 60s, which is reasonable to assume it might have been. And he would have been 50 or maybe 60, 55 in the 90s. Do the maths, it's there. So this Epaphroditus is proven in history secretary executed by Domitian according to Christian sources. Titus Flavius Clement. Again, a proven name now, Roman noble executed for atheism. Clement of Rome, Titus Flavius Clemens, is speculative. The names match, and timing suggests that these two might have been written into the same history, as Christianity, as we know, is largely written into history. Now, I think I might have gone some way to proving that's the case. Paul's Epaphroditus the freedman, again, is speculative, possible given access to Roman legal systems, but Epaphroditus does seem to be someone high up and not necessarily a freed man, though that's possible. That is somewhat plausible, but if we're constructing a history there, then it's fiction anyway, right? A Flavian court involvement in Christianity. This again is speculative, but we have gone some way to proving this, I think, in other videos. And I'm really here now doing this to help to forward this theory. I'm not trying to call it fact yet, but we have gone some way to seeing maybe it's more than a coin toss, right? And using GPT to run these Bayesian models is putting it at near total 100%, just saying. The conclusion then, the proposal that Epaphroditus and Clement mentioned in Paul's letters were Flavian insiders, is speculative but not groundless. It capitalizes on unusual name overlaps, synchronous timelines, and later Christian traditions about martyrdom and elite conversion. While the mainstream academic consensus sees these identifications as unlikely, they remain plausible. This remains a plausible hypothesis given this circumstantial evidence. At a minimum, the theory highlights how Christianity was, from a very early date, in ambiguous proximity to Roman authority, perhaps even under its wing. I will leave that there. I think we're going to talk about empty tombs tomorrow, but we'll see. Maybe we can go a little further into this because I have a couple of extra pieces of evidence for this. But yeah, we have, again, quite a number of names now. Remember Achilles and Narcissus, I think, what were their names? Very close proximity to Domitilla. Early Christian martyrs. They are referenced in Christian works. They are referenced in Roman works. So there are lots of names, I'm just saying. And then we have all of the Flavian signatures. And Josephus saying that Titus was the Jewish Messiah. Okay, bye-bye.